Welcome back to Whispers in the Dark, True Horror Stories. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us as we dive deep into the spine-chilling tales from real-life hauntings, paranormal experiences, and things that go bump in the night. In today's episode of What Lurks Beneath, a haunted hotel exploration, we'll be uncovering the eerie mysteries hidden within a century-old hotel that's far more than just a place to stay. These stories will make you think twice about what lies beneath the surface of every building. Are you ready? Let's begin. Story 1: The Locked Basement Door. My name is Daniel, a freelance journalist specializing in documenting abandoned places. About 2 years ago, I received an invitation from a group of fellow journalists to explore an old hotel that had been abandoned for nearly 3 decades on the outskirts of New Hampshire. The hotel is called the Greenwood Inn, once a popular luxury getaway in the 1950s, but it was shut down after a series of deadly lawsuits. The locals avoid the place, claiming it's cursed, especially the basement. I'm not the type to believe in rumors. So, when the group suggested an overnight exploration there, I immediately agreed without a second thought. From the moment we stepped into the Greenwood Inn, I felt uneasy. It wasn't the peeling walls or the decaying furniture, it was the heavy feeling of being watched that seemed to hang in the air. The hotel was pitch dark, except for the small flashlights we had. Rotten carpets scattered across the hallways, and the musty smell was overpowering, as if the walls were rotting from the inside out. About half an hour into our exploration, our group stumbled upon an old metal door tucked behind the kitchen. It was locked with a rusty padlock, and a wooden sign swayed on it, painted in red with the words, "Do not open. Ever." Something inside me told me not to touch it, but of course, one member of the group, Jared, thought otherwise. "It's just an old basement," he scoffed. "Why not shoot a video?" Jared used a crowbar to pry open the lock. With just a few heavy strikes, the padlock shattered. The door creaked open, revealing a pitch-black void, cold as an ice cave. The basement was dark as night. We shone our flashlights down and saw wooden steps leading down into the depths, with faint shapes looming in the distance, likely old furniture. The group hesitated for a few seconds, but eventually, we slowly descended, cameras rolling, capturing every moment. When we reached the 5th step, I heard a faint click, like someone whispering right next to my ear. I whipped around, but behind me was just Jared, frowning and scanning the surroundings. As we made our way down, we shone the lights over the corners. Abandoned items, a rotting filing cabinet, an old armchair, and a series of portrait paintings face down against the wall. What was strange, the southern wall showed signs that someone had recently torn it down. Plaster was scattered all over the floor, revealing a gap like a small tunnel, pitch black. None of us realized the metal door behind us had automatically closed. As Jared shone the flashlight into the gap in the wall, I saw something move quickly in the darkness. "I swear I saw something," Jared stammered. The group froze, no one daring to move. At that moment, footsteps echoed from the top of the stairs, but there was no one there. A whispering voice, low, raspy, as if someone was speaking right beside me. "Get out." I turned to rush up the stairs, but then I realized, the entire wooden staircase had vanished, replaced by a smooth wall. No escape. Jared's flashlight went out, and my cameras started malfunctioning, emitting a crackling noise like it was dying. In the darkness, we could clearly hear someone, slowly dragging their feet around the basement, getting closer. Jared cursed, fumbling for his phone, but there was no signal. A female member of the group started crying, her sobs echoing eerily through the cold basement. Just when we thought something would leap out at us. Bam! The metal door slammed open with such force it ricocheted and slammed against the wall. Without thinking, we bolted out, running desperately away from the hotel, leaving behind all our equipment, cameras, everything. A few weeks later, Jared received a strange email from an unidentified address. The only content was a single photo, our group standing in the basement, in the darkness. And behind us, faintly visible, a figure wearing a cracked wooden mask, its face obscured. We never saw anyone else in the basement that night. At least, that's what we all remember. What do you think was behind that mysterious locked basement door? Was it something dark and sinister, or something far worse? Let us know your thoughts and theories in the comments below. We'd love to hear what you think. Story 2, The Room Without a Number. My name is Megan, and I used to work for an adventure travel company that specialized in organizing tours to explore abandoned places. Last year, I joined a survey trip to an old hotel in the Vermont mountains, with the intention of launching an overnight haunted hotel program for tourists. The hotel is called Whispering Pines Lodge, once a luxury retreat in the 1940s, but it closed in 1972 after a series of guests mysteriously disappeared without explanation. The story of the hotel faded into obscurity, except for one detail that locals still whisper about. On the third floor of the hotel, there is a room, without a number. No one knows why, and no one knows what the room was used for. It sounded too mysterious to pass up, so my colleague Ben and I decided to investigate thoroughly. As soon as we set foot in Whispering Pines, we could feel something was off. The hotel was completely silent, not the silence of an abandoned place, but a suffocating quiet, as if the place was hiding something. We walked through the decaying lobby. The large staircase leading to the second floor was partially destroyed. We had to climb over debris to find a smaller staircase at the back that led to the third floor. The third floor was eerily cold, despite the summer heat outside. As we walked down the hallway, we quickly realized something was unusual. The rooms were numbered from 301 to 315, except for an old wooden door between rooms 308 and 309. No number, no name. Just a rusty lock and deep scratches around the doorknob. Ben joked, maybe they hid the broom closet in there. But I couldn't laugh. Something about that door made a chill run down my spine. We decided to try opening the door. The old lock gave way with just one hard push. Inside, the room was pitch dark, covered in thick dust. But the strangest thing, the room was completely empty. No bed, no chair, no wardrobe, no windows. Just four cold concrete walls, a low ceiling, and a large mirror hanging on the wall opposite the door. The mirror was not ordinary. It didn't reflect the room fully, it only reflected us. There was no door, no wall behind us in the reflection. Just the two of us, standing alone in an endless dark void. It's probably just the lighting, Ben said, but I could see his hand shaking slightly. I shone the flashlight around the room. Dust swirled up, forming strange shapes in the light. At that moment, in the mirror, a third figure flashed behind me. I turned quickly, no one was there. We decided to leave. Ben reached for the doorknob, but it was gone. Only a smooth, cold wall remained. In the mirror, our images were still there, but now, there were three figures. The third figure was standing right next to Ben, its hand seemingly resting on his shoulder. Ben started screaming, banging loudly on the wall where the door had once been. The banging echoed, but there was no response outside. I saw in the mirror, the third figure slowly turned its head to look directly at me. It wasn't a human face. It looked like a distorted mask made of skin, a mouth stretched into a wide grin, eyes deep and black like bottomless pits. Suddenly, my flashlight went out. In the thick darkness, I heard bare feet sliding across the concrete floor, followed by sharp whispers in a foreign language. A cold hand touched my neck. I don't know how, but I woke up lying flat in the hallway of the third floor. The room with no number was gone. Between rooms 308 and 309, there was just a smooth, uninterrupted wall. Ben wasn't there. We called the police and searched for 3 days, but no one found Ben. The GoPro video attached to Ben's chest, the only thing we found, only recorded 37 seconds before the signal was lost. In the video, at the 36th second, you can clearly see, Ben turns around, looking at me with a panicked expression. And behind him, in the mirror, the third figure, slowly raises its hand to cover Ben's eyes. Can you imagine staying in a room that doesn't even exist on the hotel's floor plan? What do you think happened to the previous guests? Drop a comment and share your opinion. We're dying to hear what you believe happened in that strange room. Story 3, The Whispering Basement Pipes. My name is James, a 38-year-old civil engineer. Last year, I took on an unusual project, assessing the structural integrity of the basement in an old hotel called the Briarwood Inn, located in the suburbs of Connecticut. The hotel owner, a middle-aged man named Alan, planned to restore it into a vintage resort. The Briarwood Inn had been closed since 1985 following a fatal underground pipe collapse according to the records I had read. However, the locals still whispered vague stories about whispers from below every night. I wasn't much of a believer in the supernatural. But, from the first moment I stepped into the hotel's basement, I knew, this place was far from ordinary. The Briarwood basement was cold, dark, and thick with the musty smell of mildew and dead earth. Old pipes were covered in cobwebs, sprawling like a maze. I turned on my flashlight and began inspecting each section, marking areas that needed replacement. About 15 minutes later, while measuring the diameter of an old gas pipe, I heard a faint sound behind me. At first, I thought it was just water dripping. But no, it was clearly a whisper. I couldn't make out the words, but they were short, broken phrases, as if coming from deep within the pipes. Go. Don't stay. Can't escape. I spun around and shined the light on the rusted steel pipes. No one. Only the damp echoes and dense shadows surrounding me. I told myself I was just tired, maybe imagining things. I continued checking the main water system deep in the basement. At a junction where several large pipes met, I found an old iron door, locked with a rusty chain. Unlike other areas, this part was colder, and a chilling gust of air, like it was coming from deep underground, seeped out from the door. As I approached, the surrounding steel pipes began to gently vibrate, as if something was crawling inside. The cold seeped deep into my bones. I took out a tool to pry open the lock. The lock snapped open, falling to the concrete floor with a sharp clang. The door creaked open, revealing a narrow, pitch-black concrete tunnel, stretching deep into the earth. I shone my light down the tunnel. The beam only illuminated a short distance before being swallowed by darkness. Then, from deep within the tunnel, I heard the sound of slow, shuffling footsteps, bare feet slapping the ground, coming toward me. I turned the flashlight up higher, stepped back, and aimed it into the tunnel. No one. But the footsteps grew louder, mixed with high-pitched whispers, like dozens of voices layered on top of each other. Stay. One more person. Down here, welcoming you. I turned to run, but the pipes around me suddenly exploded with loud bangs, as if something was pounding inside. From the cracks, thick, black, slimy liquid oozed out, and the stench was unbearable. It felt like hundreds of eyes were staring at me from every pipe. As I sprinted toward the exit, the whispers suddenly merged into a deafening scream, so loud that my ears rang. Just as I reached the stairs, a cold hand gripped my ankle from below the ground. I collapsed, my flashlight flying out of my hand. In the flickering light, I saw clearly. From the cracks in the walls, tiny, slimy hands were reaching out, groping, trying to pull me down into the concrete floor. I struggled, kicked hard, and managed to crawl to the foot of the stairs. When I looked back one last time, in the darkness of the basement, a short, naked figure, covered in the black liquid, stood silently watching me. Its face, if you could call it a face, was distorted, with no eyes or mouth, just slick, lumpy patches of skin. I rushed up the stairs, shoved the basement door open, and collapsed into the lobby. When Alan, the hotel owner, ran over to help me, I gasped out the whole story. He remained silent for a moment, then said something I will never forget. That basement wasn't meant for the living. A few days later, I did some research and discovered the 1985 pipe collapse wasn't due to a technical fault. A group of workers had accidentally opened an old tunnel leading to a series of pre-war holding cells, where patients suffering from severe mental illnesses were brutally tortured. And ever since, the whispers have never stopped. The sound of whispers coming from the pipes, could it have been the hotel's hidden past trying to communicate? Or is there something far more sinister at play? Share your theories with us in the comments, and let's see who can guess what's really haunting that basement. Story 4, The Vanishing Guest. My name is Kelly, I'm 29 years old, and I work the night shift as a receptionist at a small hotel in Vermont called the Silver Pines Lodge. This hotel was built in 1920 and caters to tourists seeking a retro experience, people looking for a touch of nostalgia from bygone times. Typically, my night shifts are peaceful to the point of drowsiness. I occasionally check in late arrivals, answer phone calls, or process paperwork. That was until one late winter night last year. I encountered a guest who I believe never truly existed. That night, around 1:20 a.m., as I was reviewing the booking log, the front door opened on its own. A cold gust of wind rushed in. I looked up and saw a man standing there, tall, thin, wearing a long gray wool coat, and a classic fedora. The lobby lights cast a dim glow on his face, but I couldn't make out any details. It was as if there was a foggy layer between us. He stepped inside, bringing with him a scent of damp wood and old smoke. His voice was low and husky, almost a whisper. "I need a room for tonight." I nodded and processed his check-in as usual. He didn't provide any ID, just said, "Put my name down as Edward Marrow." I assigned him room 213, one of the few vacant rooms. As I handed him the key, I realized something strange. The system didn't log the transaction at all. But at that moment, I assumed I had just forgotten to press save. About 30 minutes later, I decided to check the second floor, as I usually do. The hallway was quiet, the wall sconces casting a dim yellow light. As I passed by room 213, I distinctly felt a chill rush through the door frame. I hesitated for a moment, then pressed my ear against the door. Inside, whispers echoed disjointed, like dozens of voices whispering together. I grasped the doorknob, ready to knock, but the door creaked open by itself. Inside the room, pitch black. The only light was a faint glow from a small nightlight, swaying gently, as if someone had just passed by. No one was there. The bed was neatly made, the sheets smooth and untouched. Only a gray fedora sat neatly on the desk. A cold shiver ran down my spine. As I reached for the door to close it, a gust of wind blew sharply from inside the room, nearly knocking the key from my hand. And from deep within the room, I clearly heard, "Not meant for you." I rushed back to the front desk, my hands shaking. I opened the log to check the list of guests for the night. There was no one named Edward Merrow. Room 213 was marked as vacant. Before I could calm myself, the phone on the desk rang. The sharp sound echoed throughout the lobby. I picked up the receiver. On the other end, there was nothing but heavy breathing. Then, that familiar whisper came through. "You saw me. Now you belong here." The phone line went dead with a long, drawn-out beep. My heart raced. I had never felt so clearly watched before, like dozens of eyes were following me from the shadows of the lobby. I decided I couldn't wait any longer. Grabbing my coat and bag, I bolted out into the cold winter night. When I turned to look back at the hotel one last time, I swear I saw the silhouette of a man in the window of room 213, standing motionless, staring down at me. The next morning, I returned to the Silver Pines Lodge with the manager. When we checked room 213, everything seemed perfectly normal. No fedora, no unusual signs. And most bizarre of all, there were no signs that the door had been opened the night before. The manager then revealed something to me. In 1947, a guest named Edward Merrow went missing from room 213. They found all of his belongings untouched, but his body was never found. Since then, occasionally, night shift receptionists would get a strange guest always requesting room 213. And every person who's met him could only run away, or never return. What do you think happened to the guest who disappeared without a trace? Was it an unfortunate accident, or is the hotel hiding a darker truth? Let us know your ideas in the comments below. Do you think this was just a strange coincidence, or something more supernatural? Story 5, Below the Boiler Room. My name is Marcus, 35 years old, and I used to work as a maintenance technician at an old hotel called the Briarwood Hotel in New Hampshire. The hotel is over 100 years old, with long, dark hallways, exposed red brick walls, and creaky wooden floors. My job was simple: check the electrical, plumbing, heating systems, and make sure everything was running smoothly. The area I hated the most? The boiler room, a damp, sealed-off basement under the ground, where old machines rumbled day and night. I hated it, because I believed that something down there was best left undisturbed. It all started one night at the end of October. The rain was pouring down in sheets, and the hotel was nearly empty. Around 2 a.m., the heating system malfunctioned. The temperature in the rooms dropped to freezing levels. The hotel manager asked me to go check the main boiler room in the basement. Reluctantly, I agreed, grabbing my flashlight and special keys. As I descended the narrow stairs leading to the boiler room, I felt an unusually cold draft, colder than outside. It wasn't natural cold, it was sharp, seeping into my skin, making every cell shrink. When I opened the heavy metal door, the sound of wind howling from somewhere deep in the basement filled the air. My flashlight flickered. The darkness was thick like fog, swallowing everything out of reach. I weaved my way through the rusted machines toward the main control panel. Suddenly, I heard a soft knocking sound coming from behind the cold concrete walls. Knock, knock, knock. The knocking was rhythmic, persistent, as if someone was locked inside, begging for help. I tried to calm myself, maybe it was just the metal pipes expanding from the heat. But the knocking started to change faster, fiercer, more frantic. I swung the flashlight around. At the far end of the basement, there was a small steel door, locked tight, almost hidden in the darkness. The door was painted a dark red, peeling, with an old sign on it that read, "Keep out, authorized personnel only." No one had ever mentioned a room behind that door. It wasn't marked on the hotel's floor plan. And what chilled me the most? The door handle was still shiny and new, as if it had been used recently. I decided to return to the control panel, trying to ignore the increasingly frantic knocking. As I bent down to adjust the pressure valve, from the corner of my eye, I saw a figure slide past, barely visible between the machines. I turned around quickly. No one. At that moment, the entire emergency lighting system turned on, bright flashing red lights, accompanied by a shrill alarm blaring. In front of me, amidst the blurred red lights, a figure materialized, tall, hunched, as if its body had been twisted and deformed. Its face had no eyes, just deep, empty black sockets. I stood frozen. The creature whispered through clenched teeth, "Stay, stay with us." I quickly turned and fled. But the floor seemed unnaturally slippery, each step felt as if something was pulling me back. I struggled with all my might to crawl towards the stairs. When I looked up, I saw the basement door slowly slamming shut, as if an invisible hand was holding it tight. I ran up, slamming into the door so hard that my shoulder dislocated. But somehow, I managed to push it open, tumbling into the main hallway. At that instant, the knocking from below stopped completely. After that night, I quit immediately. A week later, while cleaning the basement, the new maintenance team discovered the existence of the Red Room. Inside, they found haunting traces. Rusted chains fixed to the walls. Handprints deeply engraved in the cement, as if someone had desperately clawed at it. And in the darkest corner, an old staff uniform with a tarnished name tag that read, Marcus W. The strange part? I never wore a uniform when I worked at Briarwood. That name tag had my exact name on it. And it had been there long before I was even hired. Thank you for joining us on this terrifying journey into the unknown. If you enjoyed today's stories, don't forget to subscribe to Whispers in the Dark and turn on the notifications, so you never miss a chilling episode. We also want to hear from you. If you have any true horror stories of your own, whether it's a paranormal experience, an unsettling encounter, or something unexplainable that happened to you, send them to us. You might just hear your story featured on our channel. Leave your thoughts and theories about today's tales in the comments below, and as always, remember to stay safe and keep the lights on. Until next time, stay in the light and keep listening to Whispers in the Dark. After hearing the terrifying events in the boiler room, what do you think was the true cause of the strange occurrences? Was it a restless spirit, or something much more terrifying lurking in the shadows? Leave your thoughts in the comments and tell us what you think really lies below the boiler room.